The night was not normal. The world was breathing in silence, but that silence was heavy, almost painful. Cities were alive a few hours before, people working, cars running, children laughing. But when the sky changed, everything stopped. The blue sky slowly turned dark, like someone had thrown a black cloth over the earth. First, people thought it was only a storm. But there was no rain, no thunder, no wind. The air became still, too still, like the world was holding its breath. Lights from the sun disappeared, and a deep red glow covered the horizon. It was not a sunset. It was something unnatural, something that made even the bravest hearts shake. Birds stopped flying, dogs started barking, and children began to cry. People came out of their houses and stood on the streets, looking up with fear and confusion. No one spoke. No one moved. The air was filled with a low humming sound, like thousands of bees hidden inside the clouds. It was not just a sound, it was a vibration, moving through the skin, shaking every bone. And then, it appeared. A shadow covered the sky. A massive shape, bigger than any building, bigger than any mountain, slowly revealed itself above the city. It was not an airplane, not a balloon, not anything humans had ever seen before. It was a ship, an alien ship. Its body was black like metal, but alive like skin. Strange lights blinked across its surface, running like veins of fire. It was not flying fast. It was moving slowly, too slowly, like it wanted every human eye to see it, to feel it, to fear it. Children screamed. Mothers pulled their kids back into the houses. Men stood frozen, unable to believe what they were watching. Soldiers were called, sirens began to ring, but even the sound of alarms was small compared to the heavy hum from the ship. The ship stopped above the heart of the city. The ground trembled. Windows cracked. Streetlights flickered and died. The whole city fell into darkness, except for the strange red glow that painted the buildings and faces of the people. The narrator's voice breaks softly. I still remember that night. When the sky turned dark in the middle of the day, that memory was not a dream. It was real. A thin line of white light shone down from the center of the ship. It was sharp, like a knife cutting through the sky. The light touched the streets, and wherever it touched, people disappeared. No screams, no blood, no running. They were simply gone like they never existed. Panic broke. People started running in every direction. Cars crashed into each other. The sound of glass breaking, tires screeching, and people shouting filled the air. But no one could escape the light. It moved slowly, carefully, searching, scanning. Some tried to hide in their homes. Some prayed. Some froze and could not move at all. Soldiers fired bullets, tanks launched missiles, but every weapon turned useless. The bullets touched the ship and melted into smoke. The explosions disappeared into the air as if nothing had happened. The more humans fought, the stronger the ship seemed to grow, and then something strange happened. A whisper passed through the crowd. No one knew where it came from. Maybe it was a man. Maybe it was not human at all. But the whisper said, "They are not here to destroy. They are here to change." The words froze people more than the ship itself. What did it mean? Change what? Change who? Was this the end of life or the beginning of something unknown? The red glow grew brighter. The ship's hum became deeper, shaking the ground like an earthquake. Buildings started to shake, dust falling from old walls. It felt like the whole earth was under their control. A mother held her child close, whispering prayers. An old man looked up with tears in his eyes, whispering, "Why now? Why us?" Soldiers shouted commands, but even their voices were shaking. Fear was everywhere, inside every breath, every heartbeat, every sound. But in that fear, a strange silence also lived. Because deep inside, everyone knew this was not just an attack. It was something bigger, something that humanity had never faced before. As the light scanned the streets, and as more people vanished without a trace, one truth became clear. This was not only the beginning of an invasion, it was the beginning of the greatest test humanity would ever face. The alien ship floated above the city like a giant shadow, silent yet terrifying. Its presence was so heavy that people could feel it pressing on their chests, stealing their breath. The strange red light that had covered the sky still glowed, painting everything in a color that looked like blood. People ran, but there was no safe place. The ship was too big, too powerful. Soldiers filled the streets with guns and tanks. Their faces were hard, but their eyes carried the same fear that lived in every heart that night. The first alien appeared when the ship opened. It was not like humans. Its body was tall, almost twice the size of a man. Its skin looked like silver metal, but it moved like liquid. Its arms were long, its legs thin, and its eyes glowed with a light so sharp that no one could look directly into them. When it walked, its feet did not make a sound. It was as if it was floating above the ground, sliding instead of stepping. Children cried louder. Women pulled their families behind walls, hiding their faces. Even the bravest soldiers stepped back for a moment, their hands shaking on the triggers of their rifles. And then the soldiers fired. Gunfire echoed through the streets. Sparks flew as bullets hit the alien's body. But the bullets did nothing. They melted, turning into drops of silver that fell to the ground and vanished into smoke. Rockets exploded against the alien's chest, but the flames faded before touching it, as if the air itself protected the creature. The alien turned its head slowly, almost curious, like a teacher watching a child try and fail. Then, with one wave of its hand, every tank and gun in front of it bent like paper. Metal screamed, wheels rolled off, and machines died in silence. Fear spread faster than fire. The alien moved forward, its glowing eyes searching. And then it spoke, but the sound was not like a human voice. It was deep, echoing, and layered, as if 1,000 voices were speaking together. The words were not clear, not human. Yet somehow people understood them. It said, "Do not resist. Change is coming," the crowd gasped. Some people cried. Some fell to their knees. Others screamed in anger, but their voices were small against the heavy sound of the alien's command. At that moment, a whisper came again. The same whisper that had been heard when the ship first arrived. No one could find its source. Maybe it came from the air itself, maybe from the earth, maybe from the aliens. But the words were clear. They are not here to destroy. They are here to change. Confusion spread. People looked at each other, their fear mixing with questions. Change what? Humanity? The world? Or the very soul of mankind? Suddenly, the alien lifted its arm, and a beam of light shot into the sky. From the ship above, hundreds of smaller figures began to fall like shadows dropping from the heavens. They landed in different parts of the city, each one tall, glowing, and silent. The invasion had truly begun. Everywhere the aliens went, strange things happened. Lights flickered back on, but in an unnatural way. Buildings shook, their walls glowing with patterns of light that looked like veins. People touched by the alien's beam disappeared in silence, without pain, without sound. But something even stranger happened in one neighborhood. An entire street was left untouched. The beam of light passed over it again and again, but no one vanished. The aliens walked near the houses, but they turned away as if something inside stopped them. The people hiding there held their breath, not knowing why they were spared. Fear turned into questions. Why that street? Why those people? The whispers grew louder in the city, though no mouth spoke them. They said, "Some will be chosen. Some will be tested. Some will be changed." By now, panic had spread across the world. Cities far away reported the same ships, the same glowing aliens, the same disappearances. Humanity was facing something greater than war. It was facing something beyond imagination. Back in the city, the first alien looked around once more. Its glowing eyes fixed on the crowd, on the soldiers, on the broken tanks, and then on the sky. Slowly, it lifted its hand and pointed toward the heavens. The ship above answered with a deep, thunderous hum. The ground shook. Glass broke. A sound like roaring wind filled every ear. This was no longer just a visit. It was the first encounter, and it was only the beginning. The first encounter changed everything. After that night, the world was no longer the same. The aliens did not leave. Their ships stayed in the skies, dark and silent, like black clouds that never moved. Every city across the world had one above it, watching, waiting. Humanity was living under their shadow, and fear became the air people breathed. The streets, once alive with people, turned into empty pathways. Shops closed, markets shut down, schools abandoned. Silence ruled the cities. The laughter of children was gone, replaced by the sound of distant sirens or the sudden hum of alien beams searching the night. Electricity failed in many places. Lights went out, radios died, phones stopped working. The world was connected by fear, not by wires. People began to live in darkness, using candles or small fires, hiding in basements and underground tunnels. But even underground, fear followed them. Every day, stories spread from survivors. A family vanished in the middle of dinner when a beam touched their home. A soldier disappeared while holding his weapon. Whole buildings gone, only dust left in their place. No screams, no signs, just silence. The fear was not just about death. It was about not knowing. No one understood why some people were taken and others spared. No one knew what change the aliens had spoken about. The whisper, "They are not here to destroy, they are here to change," still echoed in every ear. But what did it mean? In the cities, people tried to live quietly. No one wanted to draw attention. Children were told not to cry loudly. Doors stayed shut. Even dogs seemed to understand and stayed silent. The sound of one broken glass could feel like a danger. At night, the sky glowed red from the alien ships. It was not the warm red of a sunset. It was a cold red like blood frozen in the air. The light made shadows long and sharp. People often thought they saw figures moving in those shadows, tall, glowing eyes watching from every corner. One night in a small town, a man walked outside to look at the sky. He wanted to see if the aliens were gone. He looked up and his eyes met the glowing eyes of one standing on his street. He did not scream. He did not run. The next moment, he was gone. His wife and children never saw him again. This story spread across villages and towns. Soon, people stopped looking at the sky. They stayed inside, hiding their faces, hoping the aliens would not notice them. Fear became a way of life. Even soldiers trained for war felt powerless. Their weapons were useless. Tanks bent like toys. Planes fell before they could even fly close. Entire armies disappeared overnight. Nations that once stood tall with power now bowed in silence, unable to protect their people. But in the middle of all this fear, something strange happened. In one part of the world, a city remained untouched. The alien ship floated above it, but the beams never came down. People there continued to live, though with fear. They wondered why they were spared. Some believed it was luck. Others believed it was a test. But no one had answers. This mystery spread hope and terror at the same time. If one city could be spared, maybe others could too. But it also raised questions. Why that city? Why not others? In the underground shelters, whispers began. People spoke of resistance, of fighting back. But whenever they remembered the power of the aliens, their voices died. How can you fight something that cannot be touched? How can you stand against a force that turns tanks into dust and makes people vanish without a sound? Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Humanity was shrinking, not just in numbers, but in spirit. People forgot how to smile. They forgot how to dream. Fear was eating the world slowly, piece by piece. One child, sitting in a dark shelter, asked his mother, "Will they take us too?" The mother had no answer. Tears filled her eyes, but she held her son tightly and whispered, "Maybe tomorrow will be better." But even she did not believe her own words. Above them, the alien ship hummed softly as if listening to every word, every thought, every heartbeat. It was not only watching humanity, it was studying it. And humanity knew one thing. This was not just an invasion. This was a slow drowning in fear. But deep inside, in the hearts of the few who still dreamed, a question began to rise. If the aliens were not here to destroy, then what were they here to do? Fear was everywhere. Cities were silent, nations were powerless, and the alien ship still floated above like black clouds. Humanity was bending under the weight of terror. But in the shadows, something else was growing. A group of people had not given up. They were soldiers, scientists, doctors, and even ordinary men and women who had lost their families. They came together, hidden from the eyes of the aliens. This group called themselves the Resistance. They built their base deep underground, in old tunnels and forgotten shelters. No light from above touched them. No alien beams reached them. They lived in the dark, whispering their plans, breathing with fear but also with determination. Among them was Dr. Elias, a scientist who once worked for the government. He had studied stars, planets, and signals from space for years. Now his work was no longer theory. The aliens were real, and they were here. One night, as the resistance gathered around a dim lantern, Dr. Elias spoke. His voice was tired but strong. "They are not destroying us," he said. "They are watching us, testing us. Every time we resist with weapons, they grow stronger. But when we stand together, when we protect each other, their power seems weaker." The soldiers listened carefully. Some were doubtful. Some were angry. But the truth was clear. Guns and bombs had failed. Something different had to be tried. Another member, a young woman named Sarah, spoke next. She had seen something strange in her town. "The aliens walked through our streets," she said, her eyes wide. "They took people, but they avoided one place. A group of neighbors was singing together. They were scared, but they sang. The aliens stopped, and then they left without touching them." The group fell silent. Could it be true? Could human unity, human emotion, have an effect on these powerful beings? Dr. Elias nodded. "They are not only here for our planet. They are here for us, for what we are. Our fear makes them stronger, but our courage, our unity, it may weaken them." From that night, the resistance began to test this secret. They spread quietly from city to city, whispering to survivors, "Stay together. Do not fight alone. Protect each other. Do not give in to fear." It was dangerous work. Aliens searched the ground often, beams cutting through the night. Many resistance members disappeared, taken by the light. But still the group grew. For every member lost, 2 more joined. Hope is powerful, even when buried under fear. One evening in the resistance base, an alarm rang. A boy had run inside, breathless, his face pale. "They are coming," he cried. "The ship is moving toward us." Panic spread. Soldiers grabbed their weapons, though they knew weapons were useless. Mothers held their children close. The hum of the alien ship filled the air above. Dust fell from the ceiling of the tunnels. Dr. Elias raised his voice. "Do not run. Do not scream. Do not fear. Stay together." The people gathered in the center of the tunnel. The ship above roared, and a beam of light broke through the ground. It touched the resistance directly. Everyone expected to vanish, but then something unexpected happened. The beam shook, flickered, and grew weaker. The people held each other tightly, whispering prayers, singing soft words. Their hearts beat together and their courage spread like fire in the dark. The light of the beam turned thin, almost transparent. Then it pulled back. The ship above moved away. For the first time, humans had faced the alien power without weapons, without violence, and survived. The resistance cheered. But Dr. Elias only whispered, "This is their test. They want to see if we can rise above fear. If we fail, we lose everything. If we succeed, humanity will change forever." That night, the resistance sent a message across the broken world. A message carried by word of mouth, by hidden radios, by travelers moving through ruined streets. Do not fight alone. Stand together. Do not let fear rule you. Courage is our weapon, the message spread. Families began to gather in secret. Neighbors opened doors to one another. In basements, in ruined churches, in dark caves, people began to sing together, to pray together, to share food and hope. The aliens still watched. Their ship still hummed. But for the first time, humanity had found a spark. Fear was no longer the only story. In the shadows of invasion, the secret resistance was growing. And with it, a question rose louder than ever. If unity was humanity's power, could it be the key to victory? The whispers of the resistance began to spread across the world. From one hidden tunnel to another, from broken cities to silent villages, the message traveled like fire in dry grass. Do not fear. Stand together. Courage is our weapon. For weeks people tried. Families gathered in groups, neighbors protected one another, strangers held hands in the darkness. In some places, the alien beams grew weaker. In others, the aliens turned away completely. The discovery was real. But the aliens were not blind. They had noticed, and they were not going to allow humanity's courage to grow unchecked. One morning, the sky above a great city turned darker than ever before. The alien ship moved lower, closer than it had ever dared. Its massive shadow swallowed whole neighborhoods. The ground shook with its heavy hum. This time the aliens were not just scanning. They were ready for war. The resistance had prepared for this moment. Soldiers hid on rooftops, not with guns alone, but with signals to spread courage. Families filled basements not with fear, but with songs. And in the center of the city, Dr. Elias stood with Sarah and the others. "This is the test," Elias whispered, his voice trembling but strong. "If we fail here, all hope dies." The first alien descended. Its body glowed with sharper light than before, its eyes burning white. Behind it, dozens of others landed, tall and silent, their movements smooth like shadows sliding across the ground. The soldiers fired first. Bullets cracked the air, rockets screamed through the sky, tanks roared. Explosions shook the streets, fire lit the buildings, smoke covered the horizon. But once again, the weapons failed. Bullets melted. Fire vanished. Tanks bent like paper. The aliens walked through the storm of human weapons without slowing down. Fear swept through the soldiers. Some dropped their weapons, some ran. But Elias shouted, "No! Stay together! Do not let fear win!" His voice carried like thunder. Sarah grabbed the hands of two children and began to sing, her voice shaking but growing stronger. Others joined. At first it was weak, broken by screams and fear. But slowly more voices rose, dozens, then hundreds. The sound echoed through the ruined streets. The aliens stopped. Their glowing eyes flickered. Their smooth bodies trembled slightly. The humming of the ship above wavered, like a heart skipping a beat. The resistance saw it. Their unity was working. Then the battle truly began. The aliens raised their arms, sending beams of white light through the streets. Buildings cracked, cars lifted into the air and vanished. But the people did not scatter. They held hands tighter. They sang louder. The fear in their voices turned into fire. And something impossible happened. The beams bent. Instead of swallowing the people, the lights curved and shattered into sparks. The aliens stepped back, their tall forms shaking like shadows in the wind. For the first time, they looked weak. The soldiers, inspired by the courage of the crowd, lifted their weapons again, not to destroy, but to defend. They stood side by side with civilians, blocking streets, shielding families. They fought not with power, but with unity. Explosions lit the sky again, but this time humans did not fight alone. Every voice, every hand, every heart joined together. The city became one heartbeat, one sound. The alien ship roared above, louder than thunder. Its body glowed, red veins of light running across its surface. It sent a massive beam straight into the center of the city, determined to crush this human courage once and for all. But the people stood. Elias shouted, his voice breaking with tears, "This is not the end. This is the beginning. Stand together." The beam struck. The ground shook. Buildings collapsed. The air burned. But when the light cleared, the people were still there, holding each other, singing, shouting, standing tall. The aliens staggered. Their forms blurred. Their eyes dimmed. The great ship above trembled, cracks glowing across its massive body. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity was not losing. They were winning. The resistance looked at one another with wide eyes. Hope exploded in their hearts. Sarah cried out, her voice carrying across the crowd, "For the first time, humanity stands as one family." And the truth was clear. It was not bullets. It was not rockets. It was not tanks. It was courage. It was unity. This was the turning point. The city still shook with the force of battle. Smoke filled the air, buildings lay broken, and the alien ship glowed red like a dying sun. Yet the people still stood. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had not fallen. The aliens had been pushed back. Their beams had bent. Their forms had flickered. The impossible had happened. But it was not over. The great ship above roared, louder than thunder, shaking the ground with every sound. Its veins of red light pulsed faster, brighter, as if the ship itself was alive and angry. Across the world, other ships began to move too, all humming with the same furious energy. Dr. Elias looked at the sky, his face pale but his eyes burning with determination. "They know now," he whispered. They know we've found their weakness. They will throw everything at us. This is the final test. Sarah, standing beside him, tightened her fists. Then we face it. Together. The people in the city, broken and tired, lifted their voices once more. Some sang, some shouted, some simply cried out. But the sound carried. Stronger than fear, stronger than pain. And then the world answered. From villages and towns, from caves and ruins, from every corner of the earth, voices rose. People who had heard the resistance's message now stood as one. Radios crackled with songs. Churches filled with prayers. Streets shook with chants. Families held hands in basements. Soldiers in broken armies dropped their guns and stood shoulder to shoulder. The whole planet was no longer silent. Humanity had awakened. The aliens descended in greater numbers. Hundreds, maybe thousands, sliding across the earth with glowing eyes and liquid bodies. Their ships opened wider, sending beams of light that tore through cities. But no matter where the beams touched, people resisted, not with weapons, but with unity. Something began to happen. The aliens staggered. Their tall bodies bent, their glowing eyes dimmed. For the first time, their steps were heavy, their movements weak. The red glow in the sky flickered like a broken flame. Dr. Elias shouted above the chaos. "They are not feeding on our bodies. They are feeding on our fear. Without fear, they cannot survive." The truth spread faster than the beams, and the people understood. In one city, crowds marched into the streets, singing as the alien beams tried to touch them. The beams shattered into sparks. In another city, children painted the walls with bright colors, while families stood around them laughing. The alien figures froze, unable to move closer. In villages, people lit fires, not for war, but for hope, their flames pushing back the darkness. Humanity was no longer running. Humanity was rising. The great ship above the city cracked, loud like mountains splitting. Pieces of glowing metal fell from its body, crashing into the ground with fire. Its hum turned into a desperate roar, shaking but weak. The aliens screamed, if it could be called a scream. The sound was not human, but it was filled with pain, with loss. They staggered back, their bodies breaking into streams of silver light that melted into the air. The resistance watched in awe. Elias, tears in his eyes, whispered, "It's working. We are winning." The final moment came when the ship released its strongest beam yet. A massive column of white fire that fell upon the heart of the city. The people could have run. They could have screamed. But instead they stood together. Hands linked, voices united, hearts burning with courage. The beam struck, and then it shattered. The white light broke into 1,000 pieces, exploding into the sky like stars. The ship above split open, glowing veins bursting into fire. With one last roar, it collapsed into itself, vanishing in a storm of sparks. Around the world, the same happened. One by one, the ships cracked, trembled, and disappeared. The skies cleared. The red glow faded. For the first time in months, the true sunlight returned. The invasion was over. But more than that, it was humanity's greatest victory. Not because they had destroyed the aliens with weapons, not because they had stronger machines, but because they had discovered the truth. Unity was their shield. Courage was their weapon. Love was their power. People filled the streets crying, laughing, holding each other. The sound of fear was gone, replaced by the sound of life. Children ran again. Families embraced. Soldiers dropped to their knees, tears falling freely. Sarah looked at Elias and whispered, "We did it." Elias shook his head, smiling softly. "No, Sarah, humanity did it, together." Above them, the sky was no longer red. It was blue again, wide and endless. But in every heart lived the memory of that night, the night when the world almost ended, and the night when the world truly began. Humanity had faced the impossible and survived. This was not only a victory against the aliens, it was a victory for what it meant to be human. The war was over. The alien ships were gone, vanished into sparks and silence. The red glow in the sky had faded, replaced by the soft gold of the sun. For the first time in months, true daylight touched the earth again. But the world was not the same. Cities lay in ruins. Streets were cracked, buildings broken, homes turned into dust. Families searched for loved ones who never returned. The air carried both the joy of survival and the pain of loss. Humanity had won, but victory came with scars. In one city where the greatest battle had taken place, people gathered in the streets. Their faces were dirty, their clothes torn, but their eyes shone with something new: hope. Children ran barefoot over the cracked ground, laughing, chasing one another. Soldiers smiled for the first time in months. Mothers held their babies under the sun, whispering promises that the darkness would never return. Dr. Elias stood in the middle of the crowd. His hands trembled as he touched the broken earth. His voice was quiet, but those around him could hear. "We stood together," he said. "And because of that, we survived." This was not just a victory of war. It was a victory of the human spirit. Sarah stood beside him, her eyes wet with tears. She remembered the nights of hiding, the screams, the endless fear. And now she was standing in the sunlight, alive. She whispered, almost to herself, "It feels like the world has been reborn." The resistance, once only a handful of voices in the dark, was now a symbol for all of humanity. No longer hidden underground, they walked freely among the people. They were not heroes with weapons. They were heroes with courage, with unity. As the sun set that evening, the sky turned orange and pink. For many, it was the most beautiful sunset they had ever seen, because it was the first real one in so long. The red alien glow was gone, leaving behind only the natural colors of Earth. People stood together, watching the light fade, their hearts warm with a simple truth. They had survived. But deep inside, questions remained. Why had the aliens come? Why had they tested humanity with fear? Why did they leave instead of finishing their invasion? Dr. Elias often asked himself these questions in the quiet of the night. Sometimes he believed the aliens were never here to destroy, but to see if humanity could rise above its weakness. To test if humans could stand together, not divided. They wanted to see, Elias told Sarah one evening, if fear would break us, or if courage would unite us. Maybe they left because they got their answer? Sarah frowned. And what if they return? Elias looked at the stars above. Then we will be ready. Because now we know who we are. The world slowly began to rebuild. Broken cities grew into new communities. Nations that once fought each other began to share food, resources, and hands for rebuilding. Humanity had learned something powerful. Survival was not about fighting one another, but about standing together. Months later, in the ruins of an old town, a child picked up a piece of strange metal, a fragment of an alien ship. It glowed faintly in his hands, humming softly like it was still alive. He showed it to his father. The man looked at it, fear flickering in his eyes, but then he smiled and said, "Keep it. It will remind us of what we faced and how we won." That piece of alien metal, like the memory of the invasion itself, became a symbol, a reminder that even in the darkest times, light can be found in courage. And yet, on some nights when the world was quiet, people swore they could still hear it. The low hum of the alien ships far away, hidden beyond the stars. Watching. Waiting. Were they truly gone? Or were they simply waiting for humanity's next test? No one knew. But one truth remained, carved into the hearts of every survivor. Humanity's greatest victory was not in destroying an enemy. It was in discovering itself.